YouTube, what's up? Riz here, and I'm back with another NFL mock draft. This one's going to be a little different than the ones in the past. I had a recent 2-round mock that is pretty much still up to date, so if you haven't seen that, please check it out. That's more along the lines of what I think will happen, and today's mock will be the first ever mock where I play GM for every single team and I draft based on what I think should happen. I'm just going to do the first round, and I'm going to give pretty good explanations on pretty much every pick here, so please listen. Getting into it, number one pick, Cleveland Browns, Myles Garrett, edge rusher, Texas A&M. Pretty obvious choice. He's my number one player in the draft. Freak athlete that can get to the quarterback, unlike some past freak athlete edge rushers. So that's a pretty clear number one. My number two pick, I have the 49ers going with Jamal Adams, the safety from LSU. He's my number two player in the draft, so that's a big reason why I'm taking him there with the Niners. And the Niners are they're in full rebuild mode. I think they're more in rebuild mode than the Browns are. The Niners could use pretty much anything at this point. They can use pretty much anything, and I debated on putting a quarterback here, but that's a little early. And I think you need to start building your team before you get a quarterback in there in a bad situation. So I went with the best player on the board at this point, and it's Jamal Adams for me. Total package safety, can do it all. He's not going to get a million picks, but he's also not going to let you catch the ball. He's not going to give up big plays. Really love this guy, and this would be a great pick for the Niners at 2, in my opinion. And number 3, I have the Chicago Bears taking Malik Hooker, the safety from Ohio State. Another safety off the board. This happens to be my number 3 player on my big board, and so the best available at number 3, obviously. Back and forth on this pick. They had Deshaun Watson here at one point, but the problem with that is we all know that Glennon is going to be the starting quarterback. I'm not playing coach here. I'm just playing GM, and he's gonna be the starting quarterback. So I'm not gonna draft Watson for him to sit, and then we don't have a first round impact guy that can do something right away. Hooker is a playmaker safety. It can change the game with his interceptions. And it happens to be a pretty big need for the Bears. They went and signed some DBs in free agency. I know that. I understand that. But most of them are kind of just depth guys. They're nothing that they're nothing special. They're good players, but you're not going to go anywhere with them. Dem's pretty solid, but he's getting up there in age. Mukamara was probably their better signing, but he's a corner, and it's only a 1-year contract. So you still need DBs. I think if you got to get a guy in there that can get interceptions in games, and that's Malik Hooker, then I think I can win you some games right there. So I would take Hooker as the Chicago Bears. I would also keep the lines open, take some phone calls. Trading back is definitely a possibility here, but I would strongly consider Malik Hooker. Fourth pick, I have the Jags taking Leonard Fournette, running back LSU. This is pretty clear to me. This happens to be my number 4 player on the board, so far 1, 2, 3, 4 happen to be my top 4 players. But Fournette, it's a no-brainer because they did a good job in the offseason building their defense. Still have a few holes to fill, but they can go in there with that defense they got right now, and they'll be just fine, I think. Offensively, yeah, they have 2 running backs. I don't think either running back is anything special. Yeldon's got some potential. Ivory's good, but he gets hurt. Fournette's just better than both of them right away. And I think this opens things up for Bortles. I think when teams go and play the Jags, they play the pass against them, which sounds funny, and that's why they beat them, though. So I think if you get Fournette in there, it kind of scares the other team. That can open things up in the passing game as well. So I think that's a no-brainer right there if I'm the Jags. Maybe you want to trade back, get some more picks. I guess that's an option, but I don't know. I'm sticking to it with Fournette. Fifth pick, Tennessee Titans. I have Tennessee Titans taking Mike Williams, wide receiver, Clemson. My number 1 receiver in the draft. Obviously, the Titans have a big need at receiver. I think Mike Williams can open things up downfield. And not only that, I know people think he's just a downfield guy, just runs streaks. That's not true. He comes back to the ball very well. He's in the middle of the field, and his yards after the catch is pretty impressive. He can actually slip tackles, got a good stiff arm. So I think he's better than people think. I don't think this would be high pick at all. I really like Mike Williams. And Titans are a team I expect to trade. They have 2 picks. I believe they will trade. So this is another spot where take some calls. We'll see. Maybe we'll trade back, get some more picks because we do not have a second rounder, but we have plenty of picks in this draft. But so maybe we'll get a second rounder out of this. But I like Mike Williams there. And picking sixth as the Jets. If I'm the Jets, I'm taking Deshaun Watson, quarterback from Clemson. Still on the board at this point. You get your choice at your quarterback. Deshaun Watson's my number one quarterback. The Jets need a lot of things, but really at this point, I don't see how you can't take Deshaun Watson. I just don't see it. McCown, they signed McCown, but I don't think he's a starter. I think he can be in there just to teach guys while the rookie, in this case Deshaun Watson, plays. I would prefer playing him, but I'm not really sold like I was Glennon. Like I think Glennon's going to be the starter day one. I know that for a fact actually. And McCown, I'm not sold on that. So I'll take Deshaun Watson here, sitting at 6. If they were picking a little higher, then much like the Niners or the Bears, I wouldn't take the quarterback. But sitting at 6, I got to take Deshaun Watson if I'm the Jets. Next up, I have the Chargers taking Reuben Foster, linebacker from Alabama. Chargers need a lot of help. There's a lot of holes in their whole team, and their defense needs to get better. And at this point, Reuben Foster is one of the best on the board. So I think they can get Reuben Foster in there, and that would help them a lot. He's an excellent player. Yeah, he would be my best player on the board at this point. So that's the main reason I'm going with them here. They need offensive line, but I'm not taking offensive line here. Nowhere near here in this draft. Dalvin Cook is next to the Panthers, and they need a running back. They want a running back. They do have Jonathan Stewart, and to me, Dalvin Cook's a top 10 player all day. I know people are going to say there's no way they would take Dalvin Cook, but if I'm the GM, I'm taking him. So probably it might not happen. I don't know. I'm hearing he could drop because of off-the-field issues, but he was never found guilty of anything. So I think he's just a heck of a player. I mentioned that I may have Joe Mixon ahead of Dalvin Cook if there was no Joe Mixon video, but after watching more tape and going over stuff, I would not. Dalvin Cook is my number 2 running back, really close to Leonard Fournette even. He's a great player, so that's a no-brainer to me. If I'm the Panthers, I'm taking Dalvin Cook, the Florida State running back. Opens things up for Cam, no problem, can play day one. On to the next 8 picks. I have the Bengals taking Derek Barnett, edge rusher from Tennessee. Kind of best player available thing, and it's a need. Bengals defense kind of on the decline. Their pass rushing needs an upgrade that can get them back up, especially with a guy like Barnett that knows how to get to the quarterback. So pretty clear choice for me. As the Bills, I am taking Corey Davis, wide receiver, Western Michigan. They have a huge need at wide receiver, and there happens to be 2 wide receivers worthy of this pick, Corey Davis, John Ross. Both have a slight injury concern, but I'm taking Corey Davis. Can't go wrong with either one, though, but I'm taking Corey Davis here. Next pick, the Saints. Saints have 2 picks in this draft. I'm taking Jonathan Allen. Obviously, the Saints need defense, and more defense. That's why they did the trade. And Jonathan Allen, another guy that's too good to pass. I think he can play DM, play D tackle. I think he only drops here because of his shoulder injury. I think he's an excellent player, and I don't think the Saints can pass on him with their defensive needs. Obviously, DB is maybe a little bigger need, but they can wait on DB since it's very deep in this class. The Browns, I have the Browns taking Deshone Kizer, quarterback for Notre Dame. Now, this was a tough one. If you watch my other videos, you know I'm not that high on Deshone Kizer. But that is because I don't think he's ready right now, but out of the top 4, I think he has the best potential. So this being a weaker quarterback class and him having the best potential, I'm starting to Deshone Kizer's on the rise for me, basically. He's on the rise. And the Browns, something I noticed about the Browns, they have never really tried to develop a quarterback. They kind of just put him in there, he doesn't do good, and then they just take him out and they go on to the next one. I think a guy like Kizer, you have no choice, but no matter how bad he does, they need to keep him in there. So I think that could be a good pick. Somewhat of a rebuild mode. They're looking like they actually might be able to play. They're not going to compete for anything, but they may be able to play this year, win some games. But I think Kizer. I did have Mahomes here at one point, but I just think Kizer's potential will be good for the Browns to work with. That's something new they can do. They can actually, Johnny was going to be that guy that they can keep working with, but you know what happened with him. But Kizer, good kid. Looks like he's getting better. Excellent pro day. So Kizer's on the rise for me. He's not going to be better than Mahomes right now, in my opinion, but he could be the best quarterback in this draft class like 3 to 5 years from now. So that'd be a little fun project for the Browns, and I think it can work out. Next pick, I have the Cardinals taking Solomon Thomas, D lineman from Stanford. Now this is probably going to surprise a lot of people because a lot of mock drafts have him earlier. I think he will go earlier. I don't expect any of this to be true, really. This is just I'm playing GM. I don't think any of this is going to come true. Look at my other mock drafts or what I think will happen if you want to see that kind of mock draft. But Solomon Thomas, great player, but I'm not as high on him as most other people. Again, great player. People are starting to think I don't think he's a great player. Excellent player, but I just think some of these other defensive players are just better. He's mainly a run stopper in a passing league today. He can rush the passer. He's shown that. But I think he would have ridiculously good games, and then he would kind of disappear for a game or two. And I didn't like that about him. And another thing is, a year ago, there was a lack of production. So he had 1 year of solid production. He has a lot of potential. He's a good football player. I just think this is more of his range. Just to me personally, I think a guy like Barnett or Allen, I mean, not exactly the same position as Barnett, but I think they're just better defensive players in today's NFL. But Thomas is a potential guy. I think he can be great on that Cardinals defense. He fits it just right. So I think that would be a great pick, great player. I just think this is more of his range. Philadelphia Eagles, I have him taking Marshawn Lattimore, corner from Ohio State. Now, this is going to be another surprising one. So there's probably people who are like, how is your first corner and Lattimore, who's such a great corner, dropping to here? How is this your first corner off the board? And I think he will go earlier in the actual draft. But the problem with Lattimore, there's two things why he could drop and why I wouldn't take him before this as a GM. I would think about it, definitely think about it, but two reasons. One, he has a lot of past injuries. In his interview at the Combine with the media, one thing I really did not like that he said was I don't know word for word, but he said he was surprised with himself or very happy with himself that he finally got through 3 days of training camp, mini camp without getting hurt. That's something he should not have said. So he's kind of surprised with himself that he doesn't get hurt. Always had a hamstring issue, just minor stuff that was taking him out here and there. And then the Combine, everybody's like, oh, he hurt his hamstring again. And he comes out, no, it was my hip flexor. So to me, that's worse. That's something else like small that, I don't know. Excellent top 10 player easily, probably around 10 in that area. But you have to watch out for him. Is he going to be constantly coming out? I mean, he seems like a tough kid at the same time, and he's a great player, obviously. Another reason is the picks before this, like let's say the Cardinals. I just had the Cardinals taking Solomon Thomas. Cardinals could use a corner. They can definitely use a corner. But what they're thinking is, what I'm thinking if I'm them, is we can get a corner now, but there's also corners in the second round that are not far off from the corners in this area. They're not that far off because this corner draft is really good. So we can get a first-round defensive lineman that can make an instant impact and then get a corner in the second round or maybe the third round that's not really that far off from the corner in the first round. So I think there's some teams that may think like that, and they may wait to get a corner because you can get a just as good corner. Like Tease Tabor. Tease Tabor might drop the second round. He's not far off from Lattimore. Witherspoon from Colorado, another guy I really like. I don't expect him to go anywhere really near the first round at this point, but he's not really that far off. Lattimore is the best corner now that Sidney Jones is hurt, but Sidney Jones sounds like he's going to be okay, so maybe Sidney Jones back on the rise. But Lattimore, a great corner. I just think if I'm playing GM, I pass on him just for a little bit. Next pick, the Colts. I have the Colts taking Alvin Kamara, running back from Tennessee. One of my favorite players in the draft. Excellent running back, excellent receiving running back. I like his elusiveness. He can break tackles. He really has it all. Doesn't have too much experience, but that's because he was splitting with another great running back that ended up quitting, which if he was in this draft, he would be discussed as at the very latest a second rounder. So it's not like he was splitting with just anybody. I really like Kamara's potential. The Colts need a running back, so I'm taking Kamara here. Ravens come on the clock here, and it's a no-brainer. You take John Ross, great value pick. You need a receiver as well. It's just really a no-brainer. On to the next 8. Here's another surprising one probably. Redskins. I have the Redskins taking Marcus Williams, safety from Utah. Here's another spot where I would probably try to trade back a little bit. but obvious that the Redskins need a safety. They've been interviewing with, I mean, we knew they needed a safety. They've been interviewing with a bunch of safeties combine. They talk with some, or a lot, I should say. So they're in the hunt for a safety. They obviously need one. Marcus Williams is on the rise for me, one of my favorite defensive backs in this draft. There's really no weakness to his game. He rarely lets anybody behind him. I believe he's the best in this this safety draft class in yards allowed per coverage snap and run efficiency, tackling efficiency, I should say. So there's really no, those are great stats too. Like there's so many good safeties in this draft class. So I mean, it's not all about stats, but you put on the film, you like this guy a lot. He rarely lets anybody behind him. He rarely misses tackles. But I really like Marcus Williams. I don't think it would be a bad pick. I think they can trade back and still get him. So I'm looking to trade back if I'm the Redskins. Now another thing is a lot of people have him taking a quarterback. I don't have him taking a quarterback here because I mean they have needs in other spots, and because this is a team that actually can wait to take a quarterback because Kirk Cousins is going to be your quarterback for another year, and I mean I think you may be picking in this area, maybe keep getting a little better pick. I don't know how the year's going to go. Sounds like a little bit of a mess. Sorry, Redskins fans. Sounds like a little bit of a mess. So they may be picking a little better than this next year, so they can get their quarterback next year. Now, people are saying to me the Bears should do that. The Jets, they should wait to get their quarterback next year. I don't think they should plan like that. I'm not saying they have to get obviously, I don't think they have to get a quarter. Those teams have to get a quarterback in the first round because I didn't have them taking them. But you can't really plan like that if you're that team because first off, Darnold's the only one that's like pretty much a lock to be better quarterback than these quarterbacks. But you need to pretty much get the first pick, and guys will get fired if you're that bad again. So you can't really plan like that if you're that team. But the Redskins, they have a quarterback, Kirk Cousins, for another year. And they know they're not going to be the first pick, but you can get a mid-first round guy next year. So in the Redskins' case, that works. It's rare, but for them, it works. I really like Marcus Williams. Titans, again, I think Titans will end up trading. But I found the Titans a no-brainer. I'm taking O.J. Howard. They could use another tight end with Delaney Walker. And I have them taking Mike Williams and O.J. Howard. That's just scary. Titans also need DB. Corners, I should say. They've been upgrading a little bit in free agency, so that helped. They don't really need it that badly because of that. So I just take the best player on the board here, which is O.J. Howard, and it'll help him for sure. As the Buccaneers, I'm taking Christian McCaffrey, running back Stanford. Kind of too good to pass at this point, and they need a running back, a guy that can play receiver for them as well if they needed him to. But they have Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson, Christian McCaffrey with Jameis Winston. That's a little scary, so no-brainer. I'm taking McCaffrey there. Broncos, I'm taking David Njoku, tight end from Miami. They obviously need a tight end pretty badly. Njoku is a playmaker tight end, instant impact. I think he can get better too. Youngest guy in the draft, I believe. So as the Broncos, I'm taking him. The Lions, I have the Lions taking Quincy Wilson, corner from Florida. Back and forth on Garyon Conley and Quincy Wilson. Could go either way. Either one for me. I'm taking Quincy Wilson. Besides Slay, I think they need another corner to help him out. People are saying they need D linemen, linebackers. That's true, but I don't think it's a giant need. I think corner is a bigger need. I mean, it's all pretty even. You just get the best player in there, but I happen to think corner's a bigger need. The Dolphins, I have the Dolphins taking Hassan Reddick, edge rusher. I think he can play outside linebacker. Worst case scenario, he plays D end. Dolphins definitely need outside linebacker help, so I have them taking Reddick. The Giants, I have the Giants taking Joe Mixon, taking a chance on him, the running back from Oklahoma. This is a good value pick, taking in his skill. I'm not really worried. I mean, it was a bad thing, but I'm not worried about what he did years ago. Sounds like all the meetings, every interview, workouts, all going great. So I'm taking a chance on Joe Mixon. Yes, the Giants have a few solid running backs, but they don't have a Joe Mixon. They don't have a Joe Mixon. He's better than any of them day one, and he's 20 years old. So I think that would be a great pick. Now the Raiders, another spot where you can trade back a little bit. They need some run-stopping help. I'm having taking Malik McDowell, Michigan State. And this is a potential guy. Not a lot of production, but you can see he has it in him and definitely can stop the run right now. But if you work with this guy, I think he can be something special. So I think that would be a good pick, but you could trade back a little bit and still get him. On to the next 8 picks, I have the Texans taking Patrick Mahomes, the second quarterback from Texas Tech. They obviously need a quarterback. I see them possibly trading up for one. Mahomes fits their style, deep ball team with DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller, so I think that's a pretty simple one there. Now the Seahawks, I have the Seahawks taking a chance on Sidney Jones, corner from Washington. He was my number 1 corner. Injury sets him back a little bit, but he should be good by training camp. And just what a perfect team to send him to, the Seahawks. It just made so much sense to me. I think he'd end up being very good if this happened. Not worried about him long-term in the injury, with the injury. Chiefs, I have the Chiefs taking Zay Jones, wide receiver, East Carolina. I have a first-round grade on Zay Jones. No weaknesses in this game. His game, pretty much every guy in this draft has a weakness. He really does not have one. Safe choice. And the Chiefs need another receiver. They have Macklin as a true receiver, I'm talking, and Zay Jones gets in there and helps him right away. Excellent route runner, can get open pretty quickly for Alex Smith. Cowboys, I have them taking Taco Charlton, edge rusher from Michigan. Just too good to pass at this point. They need all kinds of defense. Maybe DB is more of a need than edge rusher, but you definitely need an edge rusher upgrade, and I'm taking Taco Charlton here if I'm the Cowboys. Packers they have a huge need at DB. Garyon Conley would be an excellent value pick here. Like I said, it was back and forth with him, Quincy Wilson. It could be flipped either way. They're very high in my corner rankings, obviously. So this would be a good value pick for the Packers. Steelers, I have the Steelers taking Mitchell Trubisky, quarterback, North Carolina. Pretty surprising one. I have Trubisky falling. Now, you might say, you said the Redskins could wait for a quarterback because they have Kirk Cousins. Now, why are the Steelers not waiting for one if they have Big Ben? To me, it's because the Steelers will probably finish in this area. What is this, the 30th pick? They'll probably finish around the 30th pick next year. And with Trubisky still on the board, you might get someone with the equal value at this pick next year. That's might. So I think you can't let Trubisky pass. I think Big Ben's been on the decline. And I mean, he's close to retiring, obviously. Could be gone in a year, maybe 2 max. So I think you get Trubisky in there to learn behind him, and I think he'll be a good quarterback for the Steelers. And, I mean, who knows? He could play right away, too. Big Ben, past injuries could come back to him. And, I mean, he's been on the decline, not accurate on his throws. So, to me, if a guy like Trubisky's sitting here, I would probably take him. And the Falcons, I have the Falcons taking Tack McKinley, edge rusher from UCLA. They need an edge rusher. I think he fits in at the DN position for them. And he just had surgery, but that's going well. I think he is a good value pick if you talk about his skill at this point, but because of his injury, I think he falls a little bit, but still probably won't get out of the first round. So I take him here if I'm the Falcons. And Marlon Humphrey is the last pick to the Saints. They need a corner. And I'm taking Marlon Humphrey, who may not be great right away. I think he can play right away, but I think he could be a potential guy. Another one of those younger guys in the draft, 20 years old, I believe. And I think he can be solid right away, but if you work with him, I think he can be very good. Can end up being one of the better corners in this draft class. All right, and there's the first round. A couple other things I want to go over. You notice that not one offensive lineman went in this mock draft of mine. I'm not touching any of these linemen if I'm the GM. They all have big weaknesses. Every single one of them has big weaknesses. You look at Ryan Ramczyk, best lineman in this draft, worthy of a first-round pick easily, but he has injuries, a concerning injury where he wasn't able to work out in the combine or the pro day. I know that concerns teams. That would concern me as well. Then you have Garrett Bowles, who's turning 25 before the year starts. A guy that needs some work. He could be good right away, but he needs some work, and that means you got to work with a guy that's 25 years old, which, I mean, isn't the worst thing, but I don't really feel comfortable with taking that. And then Forrest Lamp, who is a good player, but if you're looking for a tackle, he may not be able to be a tackle. I think he can be a damn good guard, but most of these teams need tackles if you're looking first round. So Lamp's probably a guard. Cam Robinson, same thing, inconsistent, probably a guard right away, has a chance to play tackle. So that's why I'm passing on the old lineman. Tim Williams, I have a first-round grade on Tim Williams from Alabama. Failed some drug tests in the past, though. That actually scares me. So I'm going to let him slide down my board a little bit if I'm a team. Charles Harris, another one worthy of a first-round pick. Did not take him. Had a guy like McKinley over him because of his run stopping. Isn't all there. Needs some work on that. Excellent pass rusher. Excellent moves to get to the quarterback. So first-round talent. Montravius Adams, defensive tackle that I really like. Have a first-round grade on him, but I couldn't squeeze him in here. McDowell's potential. Adams might be better than McDowell right now, but McDowell's potential is ridiculous. So that's why McDowell was in there. Tease Tabor, another corner that's probably worthy of a first round. He's starting to slide a little bit. Early second round, I would take him all day. Obi Melifonwu, another safety. Great player. Could have been in that Marcus Williams spot, but Marcus Williams is more ready, I think, right now. More complete. Melifonwu needs to work on his coverage a little bit. Needs some work, but good player. Buda Baker, another safety I had a first-round grade on. I had him at the Redskins spot at one point. I think Marcus Williams is better right now. Buda Baker could easily get in the first round. Jabril Peppers, another surprising one. To me, there's better safeties than him. Maybe he's going to be high on a big board because of his potential to play pretty much anywhere. But to me, it's hard to figure out where to take Peppers. It's a very hard prospect to judge. Probably the hardest one I ever had. So that's a tough situation. First round talent overall, but doesn't really have a first round talent at a specific position. That doesn't really make any sense. But his athletic ability makes him a first round talent. The ability to play different positions, but like strictly at safety, there's just better safeties. And Zach Cunningham, very good linebacker, has his flaws though, but could easily go first round. So those are some of the guys I want to talk about that I am high on, high enough to possibly put them in the first round, but only 32 teams pick in a very good draft class. So that is the reason for those guys not being in there. And that'll do it for this mock draft. Please check out the other 2-round mock as well, and more draft coverage videos on the way. That'll do it. Goodbye.